The AMD Ryzen 7 9800 X3D has landed, combining fresh upgrades with the tried and true power of previous models. AMD's enhanced 3D V-cache technology takes gaming and productivity tasks to the next level, unlocking greater performance where it counts. While it sticks to the proven 8-core and 16-thread setup, the new 9800 X3D doesn't just rest on its legacy. It now brings overclocking support, giving enthusiasts even more control to push their limits. One of the biggest changes with the 9800 X3D is introduction of AMD's second generation of 3D V-cache technology. This iteration features improved thermal resistance by positioning the cache below the core complex, which helps sustain higher clock speeds. Compared to its predecessor, the 7800 X3D, the new 9800 X3D has 500 MHz faster base clock and 200 MHz faster boost clock. For gamers and productivity enthusiasts alike, these improvements translate to a noticeable bump in single-threaded and multi-threaded workloads. Another significant update is the full overclocking support. For the first time, AMD's 3D V-cache processors support direct overclocking, allowing users to tweak clock speeds and voltages like the other Ryzen 9000 series processors. Combined with the new motherboard that supports expo memory speeds and USB 4, this feature gives enthusiasts even more flexibility to fine-tune their systems. The fundamentals haven't really changed much. AMD is still committed to the AM5 platform with DDR5 memory, which makes the 9800 X3D an easy upgrade if you already are on the latest AMD ecosystem. Next, let's talk about our testing. In this video, we specifically focused on overclocking and tested the new chip in 5 different combinations. Stock, running the CPU at its default settings to establish baseline for performance. Stock plus Expo, adding the Expo memory profile for improved memory performance without adjusting the CPU settings. Next up, we have Auto OC plus Expo, enabling automatic overclocking along with the Expo profile to see what kind of performance gains are possible without manual tweaking. PBO plus Curve Optimizer plus Expo, using Precision Boost Overdrive combined with the Curve Optimizer and Expo to push the CPU while maintaining its stability and thermals. And lastly, we have GIGABYTE motherboard AIOC plus AI Expo, letting the GIGABYTE motherboard handle the overclocking through its AI overclocking feature, paired with the AI Expo for memory optimization. This has some caveats that we'll get over a little bit later on. For testing, we're using the 9800 X3D chip on the X870E GIGABYTE AORUS master motherboard with the G.SKILL Trident Z DDR5 memory, which is clocked at 6000 megatransfers. For GPU, we're using the RTX 4080 Super, and for cooling, we're through on the Be Quiet Dark Rock Elite Tower. Let's start with a consistent burn-in test, Prime 95. Here, the stock settings are the lowest most of the test as compared to any other overclocking settings. The Auto OC, on the other hand, is on the higher end, peaking at 95 degrees. You'll also see the GIGABYTE AORUS motherboard OC is kind of all over the place. First it starts the same as others, then goes very high and then drops significantly. We're talking almost 20 degrees delta between this and Auto OC results. When we delve deeper into the power consumption, it shows stock and normal overclocks staying pretty close together, with stock being the lowest in the stack and others pretty much the same at the top. The AIOC, on the other hand, is all over the place and ends up much lower again. The story gets interesting when we examine the frequency graph. Here, most of the setups stay closely aligned, with the AIOC configuration showing a slight fluctuations, although it's within 150 MHz range. This partially accounts for the lower temperatures and reduced power consumption, but it doesn't tell the whole story. It becomes really apparent when we look at the benchmarking results. Here we start with the VRay, which is using all-core workload. The best performing setup is our custom OC, which includes the PBO as well as Curve Optimizer, while the worst by a huge 34% margin is the AI OC setup. Next up we have Cinebench R23, and the results are almost the same. The PBO plus Curve leads, while the motherboard OC is at the bottom. Do note that the difference between the top 4 is just a few percentage points. Moving on to 7-zip. We see some interesting results in the single-threaded compression and decompression tests. While PBO plus Curve Optimizer topped the chart with a compression score of just over 13,000 and decompression score just around 11,700, the stock configuration ends up at the bottom. The GIGABYTE motherboard OC showed a slight improvement over stock, with compression score of 12,482 and decompression score of 11,336, but still lagging behind the more optimized setups. In the multi-core scores, we see about the same as the other tests. The heavily optimized PBO plus Curve leads, while the other OC modes like Auto OC is slightly behind. The motherboard OC is again at the bottom, but there is a good reason for this. While it may look like I'm just trying to bring GIGABYTE down, it is actually not the case. What we're seeing here is actually expected behavior. GIGABYTE's tool, known as X3D Turbo Mode, is designed to boost gaming performance by disabling some cores. Similar tools will be available from other brands, possibly with different names. When enabled, this tool even warns you to use it only for gaming and turn it off for other tasks, though this might not be immediately clear to everyone. I know I've been there myself, tweaking BIOS settings, enabling anything that sounds impressive, only to wonder later why my PC isn't behaving properly. That's why it's essential to understand what these features actually do and whether they're worth enabling. Let's jump into a few game benchmarks to see which OC settings we should use here, starting with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. In this gaming scenario, PBO plus Curve Optimizer was clearly the best performer, delivering the highest frame rates in both average and 1 percentiles, but not by a massive margin. The GIGABYTE motherboard OC plus AI Expo OC, while not the worst, didn't provide a competitive edge over the other setups. This is in part because Shadow of the Tomb Raider game engine tends to favor multi-core CPUs, and removing available cores actually might hurt performance. Next game is Horizon Zero Dawn. In this gaming benchmark, GIGABYTE motherboard OC took the top spot, indicating that for Horizon Zero Dawn, the optimizations made by the AI OC to prioritize higher clock speeds on fewer active cores paid off well. PBO plus Curve Optimizer was also performing really well, but it couldn't quite match in this specific case. Here it clearly highlights that different games can benefit from different overclocking approaches. And that brings us nicely to our conclusion. Overall, the AMD Ryzen 7 9800 X3D proves to be a strong performer for both gaming and productivity. Throughout our tests, PBO plus Curve Optimizer plus Expo consistently delivered the best results for productivity workloads and multi-core benchmarks. This configuration offers a balanced and optimized approach that squeezes every bit of performance out of the CPU while maintaining stability, and I expect with some more tweaking you can get even more out of it. For gaming, the results are more nuanced. The GIGABYTE motherboard OC plus AI Expo OC configuration showed us that in more specific titles like Horizon Zero Dawn, prioritizing fewer active cores with higher clock speeds can be an effective strategy for boosting your average FPS. However, in more multi-threaded optimized games like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the PBO plus Curve Optimizer setup is still doing better. Also, the added complexity of turning features on and off will likely result in more frustrating experience than a happy one. So for most people, I would recommend going with the PBO plus Curve Optimizer route, and for few selected people that only do gaming in titles where it works, the motherboard X3D Turbo is here for you. What do you guys think? What kind of setup would you prioritize? Balanced performance or higher FPS for gaming? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.